Have you ever felt the need to explain yourself to someone who had already decided what to think about you? Maybe someone misunderstood you. Maybe they judged your decision. Maybe you stayed quiet and they assumed you were weak. Maybe you said no, and suddenly you became the bad person. And what did you do? You started explaining. You explained why you did it. You explained what you really meant. You explained your intentions. You gave them more and more details, hoping that eventually they would understand you. But sometimes they never do. And this is where Stoicism gives us a powerful lesson. You do not have to make everyone understand you. You do not have to defend yourself against every opinion, and you certainly do not have to spend your peace trying to control someone else's mind. Think about how much energy we waste trying to change people's opinions of us. Someone says something negative about you, and you think about it for hours. Someone misunderstands your actions, and you keep replaying the conversation in your head. Someone doesn't like your decision, and suddenly you begin questioning yourself. But ask yourself something simple. Did their opinion change the truth? If you know why you made your decision, if your intentions were honest, if you acted according to your values, then why should someone else's misunderstanding destroy your peace? The Stoics understood something that is still incredibly useful today. There are things within your control, and there are things outside your control. Your actions are within your control. Your choices are within your control. Your words are within your control. But another person's opinion is not. You can explain yourself clearly. You can speak honestly. You can correct a misunderstanding when it truly matters. But after that, the other person's reaction belongs to them. And this is where many people lose their peace. They think, if I explain it one more time, maybe they will understand. So they explain again, and again, and again. But sometimes the problem isn't that you haven't explained yourself well enough. The problem is that the other person doesn't want to understand, and no perfect explanation can solve that. Imagine standing in front of someone who has already made up their mind about you. You could spend an hour explaining yourself. You could give them every detail. You could tell them exactly what happened. And they might still choose the version of the story that makes you look bad. What can you do? You can keep fighting for their approval, or you can accept that you cannot control their judgment. The Stoic chooses the second path, not because they are weak, but because they understand where their energy belongs. Your energy should go toward what you can actually change: your character, your decisions, your behavior, your future, not toward controlling every person's opinion of you. There is also another important lesson here. Not every accusation deserves an answer. Not every criticism deserves a debate. Not every misunderstanding deserves a 10-minute explanation. Sometimes silence is not weakness. Sometimes silence is self-control. This does not mean you should never speak. Stoicism is not about becoming emotionless or silent all the time. If you made a mistake, admit it. If you hurt someone, apologize. If someone genuinely wants to understand you, communicate with them. If an important situation requires an explanation, give one. But learn the difference between communication and begging for approval. Communication says, here is what happened. Here is what I meant. Begging for approval says, please understand me. Please believe me. Please don't think badly of me. Those are not the same thing. One comes from self-respect. The other comes from fear. And sometimes The more you try to convince people that you are a good person, the more control you give them over your peace. You begin checking their reactions. You begin watching their messages. You begin wondering what they told other people. You begin changing your behavior just to avoid being misunderstood. And slowly, you stop living according to your own values. You start living according to other people's expectations. This is exactly what you need to avoid. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly focused on the importance of governing your own mind and character, rather than being controlled by the behavior of others. That idea is incredibly relevant today, because modern life gives us more opinions than ever. People can judge you from a message, from a photograph, from one sentence, from one decision. Sometimes they don't even know the full story, yet we still allow their judgment to enter our minds. We give strangers, friends, co-workers, and even people from our past the power to determine how we feel about ourselves. But your worth cannot depend on everyone's understanding. Think about this. A tree does not stop growing because someone doesn't like its shape. The ocean does not become smaller because someone refuses to respect it. And you do not become less worthy simply because someone misunderstands you. Your responsibility is not to control the story everyone tells about you. Your responsibility is to live in a way that you can respect when you are alone with yourself. That is a much harder standard, but it is also a much more peaceful one. So the next time someone misunderstands you, pause before you react. Ask yourself, does this actually need an explanation? If yes, explain yourself once, clearly, calmly, without anger. Then let it go. If no, allow the misunderstanding to exist. You don't need to correct every opinion. You don't need to win every argument. You don't need to prove your character to everyone. And you don't need to chase people who have already chosen not to understand you. There is tremendous freedom in realizing this, because when you stop trying to control everyone's opinion, you get your attention back. You can focus on your work, your relationships, your goals, your health, your growth, your peace. You begin to understand that being misunderstood is sometimes simply part of being human. Even good people are misunderstood. Even honest people are judged unfairly. Even people with good intentions can be seen negatively by someone else. You cannot prevent that. But you can decide how much space it occupies in your mind. And that decision belongs to you. Maybe someone thinks you are too quiet. Let them think it. Maybe someone thinks your priorities are strange. Let them think it. Maybe someone doesn't understand why you walked away from something that wasn't good for you. You don't need to write them a book about it. Sometimes the strongest explanation is the life you build afterward. Let your actions speak. Let your consistency speak. Let your character speak. And most importantly, let yourself remain at peace. Because there will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be people who judge you without knowing the whole story. There will always be people who create their own version of who you are. You cannot control that. But you can control whether you spend your entire day trying to change it. And maybe that is one of the quietest forms of strength. Knowing when to speak, knowing when to explain, and knowing when to simply let go. You don't need everyone to understand you. You need to understand yourself. Know your values. Know your intentions. Know the kind of person you want to become. Then live accordingly. If your actions are aligned with your values, you don't need constant approval from the outside world. You can walk away from unnecessary arguments. You can stop defending every decision. You can stop chasing every misunderstanding, and you can finally protect something far more valuable than someone's approval: your peace. So remember this the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself again and again. You can control your actions. You can control your response. You can control your character. But you cannot control another person's opinion. Explain when it matters. Apologize when you're wrong. Speak when your voice is needed. But when you've done your part, let go. Not everyone needs to understand your journey. Not everyone needs to agree with your choices. And not everyone deserves access to your peace. Live honestly, act with discipline, stay true to your values, and let the rest belong to the people who choose to judge you. You have a life to live. Don't spend it explaining yourself to everyone.